Hey guys, Wolfie here. This is Eyes on Paladin Cecil for the City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia Global. And I believe this is the 16th of March 2021. Now, you're kind of wondering, okay, where is the Kaya's character spotlight? As you guys know, I've been working 6 days a week at my job lately. I am saving up for some computer parts. And unfortunately, that will remain the case. I'm leaning towards July to going back to 5 days, but that bit out of the way, I am kind of busy, so, the Caius one, I am still trying to do some mental preparation for that, so, in the meantime, you guys get to see the, Eyes on Paladin Cecil, because, as of this week on Global, Paladin Cecil becomes a highly sought-after character with this 80/80 Awakening, the debut of his Burst and LD weapons. I'll go over what the Burst and LD does in a little bit more detail for this particular video, and go over the pros and cons of what makes it good and not so good. Now, I'll have the Dissidia database website link in the description below, which has gone through some pretty massive changes, alongside the Tonberry trip information, because some stuff over there is, they bring up some excellent points there where it's like, okay, is he that sought after, that sort of thing? Because granted, Paladin Cecil at this point is really good. But no character is perfect. And for anybody to hype up a character, it's like you gotta bring out both the pros and cons, so that way people can make a more informed decision about who they go after, who they don't go after. Now, upon the making of this video, I do not have Paladin Cecil's LD weapon as of yet. I may have to skip Kais's Lost Chapter banner because, of course, and I put this here because it's like, regarding Paladin Cecil, one of the banners where his first weapon will be is on Kais's Lost Chapter. Like I said, I'm going to be forced to skip Kais's Lost Chapter banner altogether. And this is for the time being. I may be able to pull it, who knows. But it's going to be just tickets because I'm saving my gems for April and May. And that's going to be a bit of a nightmare month, the nightmare period for me. So, with that, the usual disclaimer also shows up here. Any opinion in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. So, with that, I will meet you all at the LD and Burst Weapon Banner for Paladin Cecil, so I'll be back. Okay, so I am back. So, here we are. This is the banner where Paladin Cecil's LD and Burst weapon is. So, like I said, I've yet to get the LD, and that's probably going to be the only thing I'm going to be gunning for if I can get my hands on the LD weapon itself. So, with that, we're just going to go over what the LD and the Burst weapon does, because the LD is probably going to be the more desired weapon to get, because you can always go after the Burst weapon at a later date, even with the Burst tokens, that sort of thing. So the LD weapon's name is called Myth Graven Blade, and the LD ability itself is called Limited Shards. So basically this is where you get a free skill usage on skill 1, skill 2, and the additional ability afterwards. Now you have here the Holy Imperil, so this is where what happens. So it's basically, let me do the camera thingamajig here, so that way you guys get to see what's going on in the base form before the MLB aspect. And then with the icon above Paladin Cecil's head, the value here says remaining turns of effect. And then you're going to go into the 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, and 3 out of 3. Now, people have pointed out, when you do the LD, as a call, you have half of the effects, which is, it is what it is, sort of thing. So this is pretty much the LD in a nutshell, and then we're going to go over the Burst weapon itself. So the name of the blade is called Waxing Blade. The ability is called Burst, Finishing Burst Soul Shift. And it's like, notice that Harmony of Light and Dark, meaning that with Paladin Cecil embracing the dark side of the past. So here it says here 15 hit group, all this stuff right here. This is total HP damage, so it's like it's AoE full. It has all this stuff you see here. So this is burst its effect for 5 turns after use. Now, what makes him so good? What kind of concerns people? Now, I'm going to go over the good stuff first for Paladin Cecil. Now, before I go into that, I am going to be ignoring that, little bell thingamajig. Oh, you see there, just blinking. So, what makes Paladin Cecil so good? Now, he brings a wide variety of tools to the table in the sense of, like, survivability for the entire team. Being selfless, that sort of thing. Now, with the holy aspect of what he does, he is an elemental specialist, which is good in certain situations. Now, the survivability, with the HP regen, excellent defense, the list goes on. Now, with the HP regen, all that stuff, what makes him not so worthy to pull? Now, it has come to my attention, I've noticed this a little bit on Twitter, a bit more notable on Facebook, and some DFFOO JP content creators bringing to light that of what's going on JP right now regarding Lufenia Plus difficulty. Now, why does this relate to Paladin Cecil on Global? Now, people who play JP brought up something kind of interesting. And what they brought up that was interesting regarding Paladin Cecil is that he kind of starts this whole gimmick of, if you will, where you have a cluster of varying Lufenia difficulty fights or even Lufenia Plus where certain characters are locked out because of certain things. Now, in Paladin Cecil's case, in this regard, the reason why he gets locked out is because there are enemies who will have take no damage from holy elemental attacks as well as absorb it. Meaning that you have to figure out who else can fulfill certain types of requirements. So this is the whole thing that's going on in full force right now on JP, with Paladin Cecil's Burst NLD debut being the whole quote-unquote root cause, because there are a group of fights following the whole aspect here where Paladin Cecil is of no use because he is an elemental specialist. So it could be a good thing, to be an elemental specialist tied down to one element, but it's also the thorn in the side, if you catch my drift. So, the thing is with Paladin Cecil, he's really good at what he does at this point. It's just that, unfortunately, he's one of those characters is where what could be good can also be bad. And like I said, I do not have his LD weapon at all. It's something I'm going to be trying to get with tickets. I mean, I may have to do some gem pulls, but I'm trying to conserve my gems, as you can see, because Theodore took a little bit more than I anticipated. But either way, like I said, the thing is with Paladin Cecil's, he's really good at what he does. He's got, I think he might be centered more on defense and healing. But the fact that he is an elemental specialist, it's it could be a good thing, it could also be a bad thing. Now, the Tomberry troop brought up something on their infographic where, and not many people may have caught on, who knows, it's a bit of a wait and see, is that for some of the auras Paladin Cecil provides, the party needs to be at least full health to take advantage of it. Which is not always a good thing. Because if you have to have a certain threshold you need to meet in order to make the most out of certain auras or passes or whatever, it's not as good as it looks on paper. Now granted, some of this is rectified by the fact that Paladin Cecil has some good strong healing aspects. But there is a character that's coming up in the month of April, who's getting her burst NLD, that puts certain aspects of what Paladin Cecil could do it becomes a bit of a laughing matter. Now, the character I'm referring to, I'm going to pause this video so I can bring the female up to the screen. So I will be right back. I am back, and this is the character who Paladin Cecil will be competing against, Y'shtola role for Final Fantasy XIV. Now, why is she in this video? Why does she become like a bit of a putting Paladin Cecil, as a bit of a laughing matter? Now, the thing is with Y'shtola, and people may not recognize this right away, but Y'shtola is getting her burst NLD on global in the near future. The thing is with Y'shtola's secondary rework that's tied to it, alongside her 8080 awakening, is that with the longevity. Now, with Paladin Cecil, he doesn't have a reliable means with the longevity. Y'shtola does. And the way Y'shtola's longevity is pretty much putting some other people to shame is with her EX ability. Now, granted, it has a slightly slow recast speed when you fully realize it. However, she has because of her EX, is that she gets a skill use back. Now, this is something that Paladin Cecil does not have. He doesn't have the way it means to reliably conserve his skill uses, where Y'shtola actually has it in spades. Now, granted, Y'shtola does have, the earth element, but unlike Paladin Cecil, Y'shtola isn't as tied to the earth element as people may seem, because and the thing is that with Y'shtola and Paladin Cecil, they're both support units, and that's their main role. Now, the thing is with Y'shtola, the fact that she is tied down to the earth element, it's only in skill 1, which isn't enough to put her as an elemental specialist, which is something that Paladin Cecil is. So the whole thing with the aspect of being tied down to an element, Paladin Cecil, he's tied down to an element all kit long. Y'shtola, as of right now on global, she's only tied to it in her skill 1. She doesn't have much going on in the other stuff, that she's got coming later on. Now, again, the thing is that you don't want to have Paladin Cecil as a do-all and be-all for support. And Y'shtola, once she gets her LD and burst, again, she's got some aspects to what she could do that I feel would put Paladin Cecil to shame. Now, another thing to take note of regarding Y'shtola is that, unlike Paladin Cecil, on GP, she actually has her burst weapon in a realizable state. So, now you notice, hold on a second. You see here, this is Y'shtola, this is the whole thing with the plus thing with her EX weapon. Now, we're going to be seeing something like this for burst weapons in the future for global. So we do have a burst weapon realization sort of aspect coming along later on this year for global. Now, Y'shtola is actually one of the first units that gets this sort of treatment, which makes her even more desirable as a support unit. So, unlike Paladin Cecil, Y'shtola actually has her burst weapon in a realizable state. Now, so that's the whole thing on that. So so let me do something real quick. So to do a bit of a quick recap, the thing is with Paladin Cecil now is that he is very, very, very good at what he could do in the sense of support unit. Now, the problem here with Paladin Cecil is a few things. The Time Harry Troop actually brought up something with the burst effect, is that you have to have certain conditions to make the most of Paladin Cecil's most impactful auras, which I fully agree with, because it's like, why do you have to have certain things to be met in order to make the most out of it? And then another thing is that you have a string of upcoming content for global where Paladin Cecil cannot be used. And The thing is with him is so you get somebody else coming along in the near future who's getting her burst and LD weapon, a second rework, 8080 awakening, that's also getting a burst weapon realization at a later date, and that is Y'shtola. Now the thing is with those two, again to do recap here, Paladin Cecil is an elemental specialist. With Y'shtola, she only has the elemental specialist in skill 1. She doesn't have it as much as far as I know regarding her LD and burst weapon, but that's that on that, and that's the whole thing. But the thing is with Paladin Cecil, you do want to invest in him, but you should not have him as the only support unit to invest in, because Y'shtola is coming along in the near future, first with her burst and LD, and then she's going to get another rework with the burst realization. So Y'shtola is pretty much the magic version of Paladin Cecil, so you don't want to have Paladin Cecil as the do-all and be-all, because there's content coming up on Global where you're not going to be able to use him at all. And then another thing to keep in mind is that there's a bit of a controversy going on right now on JP regarding Euphenia Plus difficulty, where Global really needs to take a look at that and make some adjustments of their own, so that way the player base doesn't drop too bad. So with that, I am done with this video, and the next one will be the character spotlight on Caius. So I am actually done with this video. So with Wolvie here, signing off, I will catch you all on the flip side.